Hello, everyone. Welcome to Backyard Musings, broadcasting live from Apple Valley. I'm Steve.
And I'm Scott.
Thank you so much for joining us today. It's a pretty nice day, yeah?
Beautiful day so far.
So
Supposed
far.
to be 104 though.
Yeah, we're broadcasting this in the morning because 110 degrees at 1 o'clock
Miserable.
wasn't working for us.
Yep.
So we started doing this in the morning. We still publish at 1 o'clock.
Yeah, we filed a grievance with the union about air conditioning unit. So.
And by the way, if you saw what looked like snow on the screen, that was our mister.
Yeah, that was
the
not
mister's
summer
right over
snow
Scott's
in the high
right
desert.
shoulder. Yeah, we had a mister to like cool it off a little bit, but it looked like snow.
We're turning into the Hallmark Channel, or Christmas in July. So.
Okay, Democrats are working on another workaround for changing the SCOTUS. Another one. Remember there was machinations about court packing, right?
Yeah. Well, and adding to the numbers, right? They wanted to kick it up to what, 14, 15
Oh yeah,
members?
that's court packing. Yeah. Trying to even it out, right?
Yeah.
Joe Biden supports several measures to reform SCOTUS amid Dem outrage over its recent decisions and several ethics scandals, according to Washington Post. Now, not sure about the veracity of Washington Post because they're a rag, left-leaning rag.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Biden plans to endorse an enforceable ethics code that would apply to the court, as well as term limits for justices. Now, as you can see on the slide here, I'm showing you Section 1 of Article 3 of the Constitution. I've highlighted, the judges shall hold their offices during good behavior. That's it. Constitution doesn't talk about term limits, doesn't talk about quantity of justices. Right?
It's one of those lifetime appointments, right? You can retire if you want to.
No, that's just what's been done.
Yeah.
That's just what's been done. It doesn't say appointed for life. Now, in 1789, after the Constitution was ratified, Congress passed the Judiciary Act of 1789 that set forth how you're going to have federal court system. You know, the district courts and the appellate courts, because we know we've got a Supreme Court, right? That's in the Constitution.
Correct.
So that means Congress can change the court system if they want, just pass a law. I mean, you got to get consensus, which will probably be hard to do.
But it has to be done by Congress. It can't be done by an executive order.
No, executive order can't do it. Yeah.
Branch.
Yeah.
Okay.
And even if you wanted to change, you couldn't do it, Scott.
Right. Yeah,
you know
that's good.
So I've also put on this graphic that each side thinks that it's tyranny. Like, so back in the 70s when there was a liberal court system, we're going to show that on the next graphic, that we didn't say court packing. When Roe v. Wade was enacted, we didn't, 50 years ago, we didn't say that. We didn't stomp our feet and term limits. But now the Democrats have such a lust for power.
Yeah.
They'll start stomping their feet and try and elect the president create a commission to study this. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Very obvious. They're less for power.
Yeah, very
right
obvious.
out there.
I think I'm okay with an ethics code. How do you feel about that? I mean, we really didn't talk about that.
Yeah, no, I think so. I mean,
an ethics code is okay. It controls both. You can't really manipulate the ethics code.
Yeah. But I mean, this lust for power, I mean, not to get off the subject, but it's really becoming more noticeable now with all these Democrat leaders, high-ranking officials.
Stomping their feet.
Stomping their feet and looking for Joe to step aside,
Yeah.
I mean, this would not have happened 8 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. This is crazy. I mean, they're not getting their way, so they're making their way.
8, 12 years ago, Obama was in power.
Right.
20 years ago, Obama was in power.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and then
so they were
Clinton.
happy. They were happy.
Yeah.
So according to Newsweek, term limits for SCOTUS justices are supported by most Americans. So
not these two most Americans, right?
Well, not these two, no.
Yeah.
But like I did the research, and there were including a majority of voters from both major political parties. Polls show. I looked at the polls. There were 2 polls taken, the AP and Hart Research, and the questions they asked about term limits. There was a favorable, both Democrats and Republicans, more than a majority.
Interesting.
And some of us don't. I thought that, I can't find these polls, and then I started digging deeper, and I found the polls. That, I mean, term limits, it's kind of popular. But as you can see from the graphic that I'm showing here, that you can see now, the Democrats have had a lockdown on appointing justices by their president since the mid 30s, early 40s until I'd say early 70s. Right? It was Democrat controlled, right? And did we stomp our feet when Roe v. Wade was decided 50 years ago?
Yeah. Well,
we didn't stop. I mean, I'm
sure there was
we
a lot
didn't
of
say
people.
Court packing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
We didn't say term limits.
Right.
That's the way elections have consequences. That's what you keep saying, Scott.
Yeah,
I believe
absolutely.
you.
Yeah.
That's what you keep saying.
Yeah.
So they have consequences, and so we look at from the 70s until just recently, the 2020. It started to get controlled by the Democrats, but we didn't have a majority until Amy Coney Barrett was elected. And you were saying Chief Justice Roberts, he doesn't, he's like a wibbly wobbly.
Yeah, he's a moderate.
Moderate. I'm okay with moderate.
Yeah.
Right. And we expected him to have a conservative slant, but it didn't work out that way. You were talking about Kavanaugh. Right?
Kavanaugh's been
a little bit wonky.
He's a little bit of wonky. I mean, again, I don't know what they're thinking, and I don't get to see all the stuff that they get to see. But the decision, some of the decisions, they're not a hard right leaning justice. Kavanaugh, Barrett, and obviously Roberts.
I think I'm okay with that because they don't have ideologies that they're following.
Right.
For the most part, they don't.
Right.
They're kind of they look at the Constitution, they look at the controversy, and they make a decision based on the Constitution.
Ruling on the law.
Most of them, and in some cases we've had rulings that were unanimous, 9-0, like during Biden's time and during Trump's time. It just depends. So the if there's term limits, there's been talk of kind of like senators. Every 2 years there's a vote for senators. 33% of the Senate turns over or whatever. So every 2 years, so that's 6 years. You've got the Senate has fully been voted on every 6 years, right? So now they're saying there could be 18-year term limit, replacing a justice every 2 years. They would just rotate out, right? That's dangerous because if justices rotate out every 2 years, then a two-term president would have 4 appointments, right? Yeah. And that could
pack the court. Right.
Not quite, because let's say it was 9-0 in favor of Democrats, and then we have a Republican president for 8 years. It would still be 5-4 led by Democrats.
Depending on how it's stacked already, right?
But it could be locked down either side. I mean, it's just
let's say right now the way the court is, and let's say that two of the Kennedy just left. So let's say that Sotomayor and Kagan. They were gone, and so then let's say, and Trump was reelected, then he could put 2 more in, right?
Well, if it's during his time, if it's during Biden's time, he's got control of the Senate. He's gonna.
If you can remember,
knowing Biden, he's gonna have the vote to confirm someone before they're dead, like he did with Ketanji Brown Jackson, or the dude retired.
Yeah. So, but I mean that could be a lopsided court if depending on the timing and who's elected. Yeah. So anyway, all right. So Democrat presidents had a tight grip on justices, like we said, from the 40s until the early 70s. Republican presidents regained their grip from the 70s until now.
They still have the grip.
Yeah. Biden appointed 1 judge. Imagine if Garland would have been confirmed.
Just think about that. Imagine if Garland would have been confirmed.
That would have been one of the worst confirmations.
They'd still have power.
If he would serve as he's serving now as head of the Department of Justice.
He'd be a wingman.
Oh my gosh, that would be awful.
And I think that he's the way he is because of retribution. He's a retribution paladin. Because he's unrequited love. The Republicans dumped him. That's why he's doing what he's doing.
Yeah. So, like we said, elections do have consequences. This would radically change the case law.
It would.
So, Chuck Schumer said about taking over the Senate. Now let's change America.
I remember that. I remember that, and literally that's what he wanted to do, change America.
Yeah, well, and that was kind of Barack Obama's motto too, right?
Yeah.
Fundamentally change America.
Yeah.
Republicans followed the Thurmond rule, which was not to confirm
Strom
Thurmond, was not to confirm any justice during an election year. This rule was not allowed when both Senate
it wasn't followed. They allowed it, but it wasn't
not followed. Right. I'm sorry. When both Senate and the White House were held by one party. When one party held the White House and a different party held the Senate, it was followed without prejudice.
It was
prejudice.
like religious Bible. It was followed.
Yeah. After Merrick Garland was not allowed a confirmation, waiting 265 days for one, and then Amy Coney Barrett was confirmed in just over a month, President Biden, through executive order, decided to establish a presidential commission on SCOTUS because of Dem outrage.
Yeah.
You know, a big deal.
Their lust for power.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Back to that. In fact, this administration has been an idiocracy of outrage.
It has been. Did you coin that correctly?
They're loony.
Yeah.
They're just off the charts.
So the commission considered membership and size of the court, better known as court packing, and term limits. In 1937, the Senate Judiciary Committee, Democrat-led, by the way, issued a strongly worded recommendation against the court packing plan. Remember, FDR wanted to pack the courts, right?
Right.
So this Democrat-led committee, the Judiciary Committee, said, quote, "Let us now set a salutary precedent that will never be violated. Let us of the 75th Congress, in words that will never be disregarded by any succeeding Congress," that's strong wording, right? "Declare that we would rather have an independent court, a fearless court, a court that will dare to announce in its honest opinions in what it believes to be the defense of liberties of the people, than a court that, out of fear or sense of obligation to the appointing power or factional passion, approves any measure we may enact." End quote. It sounds like Republicans rather than Democrats. Doesn't that sound like Republicans?
Yeah, and I was going to say, I don't remember the exact rulings, but when Donald Trump had the court, I mean, as you would say, there was a couple of rulings during his period that didn't go his way.
Well, Roberts,
yeah. So
because we didn't have Amy Coney Barrett yet, so Roberts was doing these wonky decisions that we didn't expect him to make, like on Affordable Obamacare.
Oh yeah, Obamacare,
remember that?
Right.
There was a couple decisions that he kept it intact.
And there was a lot of legal experts that said that was just flat out wrong. To impose a tax like that, right?
But the Democrats have legal experts too that say crashing Roe v. Wade, sending it to the states was wrong.
Yeah,
because they'll find expert witnesses to say that.
Exactly. So, all right. In the 1950s, there was also a play to amend the Constitution to fix SCOTUS membership to 9 justices, which failed.
I don't remember that. Do you remember that?
I don't remember.
I mean, you're like 90 years old. You don't remember that?
Yeah, no, I don't remember that.
All right.
The commission seemed to think that Congress does not have the power to enact legislation that can change the court. Does have.
They do have power.
The commission seemed to think that Congress does have the power to enact legislation that can change the court, as evidenced by the Judiciary Act of 1789. I wasn't around for that one either, which established the federal court system.
Dirt.
Yeah, no, I'm old as dirt, but I'm not that old.
Yeah, so that pretty much started it. That Judiciary Act that established the federal court system, appellate and district. So Congress can change it, right? 31 states and the District of Columbia have mandatory retirement ages for their state Supreme Court justices. Almost all states establish term limits ranging from 6 to 15 years. The only difference is that many of the states elect their Supreme Court justices.
Oh, instead of
many of them instead of appointments. Only a few states allow appointment by the governor and confirmation by the state senate. So that puts the power in the hands of the people. That's where you'll find the term limits, because they got to be voted on. However, critics...
I like that, I guess. I mean, yeah.
I don't know. We'd have to think about that.
Again,
give us your comments, what you think.
Yeah, and some of the ways that some of our elected officials have come about, maybe I'm not so...
Tell us if you think Supreme Court justices should be elected. So they'd have to start stumping. All these district... Can you imagine how many judges would start stumping and put on the ballot?
Yeah, the money that they collect.
How do you know?
Money, and you know what money does to people.
Corrupts
especially
absolutely.
Election.
Yeah.
All right.
However, critics of term limits argue that the current system of appointment through life tenure protecting independence and neutrality of federal judges, has worked for over 230 years. If the wheel ain't broke, why fix it? We personally think that term limits will not be approved by any Congress. If Congress can change one thing about the judiciary, what's to stop them from changing other things about the judiciary, especially with Democrats' lust for power?
Yeah.
Right? They probably say the same thing about us.
Well, and
our lust for power.
yeah, I was going to say, I mean, it could go either way. I mean, we do have some winners in our party. So anyway.
We've observed that when Senate Democrats make changes to their Senate rules, it backfires with stunning fanfare. Remember, we were talking about that nuclear option 1 and nuclear option 2 about judges. Yeah. That just blew up in their face, right?
Yeah. So we know for sure that an executive order cannot change term limits or pack the court. Executive orders are for a branch of the executive government, not Congress.
Yeah, every agency or whatever that's been formed by the executive, like OSHA, the president can make an
Homeland Security.
Yeah,
right?
the president can make an executive order that they have to follow, right?
Yeah. So, and not the judiciary. If by some miracle Democrats take over the House and keep the Senate,
that's this election, right?
Yeah,
if they take over the House, keep the Senate.
So those new appointments will be done the first week of January.
Yeah.
Then and only then could Congress push forward legislation to change the court, and Biden would sign it into law just before he leaves office.
And when we say then and only then, we mean with possibility of success. Of course, they can try and do that at any time.
Right.
The House is not going to approve that vote for packing now because we control the House, but the Senate would approve it. So if something got snuck in, then Joe Biden in that last 20 days, he could sign it into law. I mean, think about that.
Yeah, no. Last minute, yeah.
Elections have consequences.
They do.
If you have a razor-thin margin, it could go either way, especially in that last month, after the elections in that last month.
Yeah.
All right, folks.
Do the research, right?
Yeah,
do
the research.
Figure out who you're voting for.
Tell us what you think about these justices. We want to know. Tell us.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, thanks a lot for joining us.
You guys have a great day. Thank you.